Larchmont Police.
Good tax news for the town of Mamaroneck.
Funny money is found in Mamaroneck.
Tips on getting on county golf courses.
And 35 grants awarded by the Mamaroneck Schools Foundation. Those stories and more coming up on this edition of Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News.
Hello and welcome to Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News. I'm Amy Schachtel.
And I'm Maura Carlin. Our top story. It took nearly 2 years, but the Village of Larchmont and its police department reached agreement late last month. The new 5-year agreement, which is retroactive to August 2003 when the last contract expired, calls for wage increases between 3.8 and 3.95% depending upon the year. It lifts starting salaries to $34,000 a year, gives detectives an extra one-time raise so they receive 7% above the top grade police officer, raises annual longevity pay by $50, $100, or $150, depending on the year. It also hikes uniform allowances by $25 per year, modifies work schedules, and increases from 42% to 50% the village share of a retired officer's family health insurance premium. It was the benefits package that was the biggest sticking point in the negotiations. Also important to the village is a provision to further discourage use of sick days by allowing officers to bank unused sick days and be paid for a greater portion of them upon retirement, now 57% up from 33%, and then to use the rest to pay for health premiums. Since overtime charges for replacements are time and a half, this can save the village money. As for the bottom line on the village budget, Larchmont Village Treasurer Dennis Bruciani says the village set aside sufficient contingency funds to cover the salary increases for the first 2 contract years, which end this August, and any additional savings will depend in part on the use of the sick days. And the future cost of retiree benefits, he says, are hard to quantify, but can be expensive. But all are relieved to have the contract issues behind them.
As of the taping of this program, the strike affecting B-Line buses was still going on. Negotiations between Liberty Lines, the operator of the buses, and Transit Workers Union, Local 100, were stalled. The contract between the operator and the union had expired at midnight on February 28th. The strike deadline had been extended. Talks were held, but they haven't brought any results yet. And riders who rely on the B-Line buses are extremely unhappy about the current situation. The union is asking for better health benefits, with an increased weekly contribution of $10 from $5 to $15. The union also wants to reduce the retirement from 62 to 57 years after 20 years of services. The operator of the buses, Liberty Lines, thinks that the demands of the union are not realistic. If implemented, they would mean the increase of fares and would also affect contributions that the county is making to the budget of operating the buses. By the time this program airs, the two sides will hopefully be talking again, and perhaps the strike situation will be resolved soon.
Talk about money blowing in the wind. It was in Mamaroneck Village. Counterfeit bills, anyway. After parolee Christian Hogan tried to use phony $100 bills at Cap's Deli on Mamaroneck Avenue, and deli employees called police, a bunch of bills hidden by Hogan in a pipe picked up and were whisked by a gust of wind. Police caught up with Hogan, and he was charged with first-degree criminal possession of a forged instrument, which is a felony.
When will you receive your county tax bill later this year? there will be when you receive it, there will be a happy surprise. For Mamaroneck, the 2005 tax bill will decrease overall by 8.9%. The Westchester Tax Commission has just set the tax rate for the communities in the county that collect property taxes for the county. 11 of Westchester's 25 towns and cities will see an increase of the county tax bills, while 12 towns and cities will actually see a drop. The big winner in all of this is Mamaroneck. According to the numbers of Westchester Tax Commission, the full value of real estate property in Mamaroneck was reduced by $23 million in 2004. The total value is now assessed at $7.3 billion. The $7.3 billion equals 4.9% of the $149.7 billion full value of all property in the county. It's this percentage of the 4.9 that sets the property taxes for the municipalities. 4.9% is the new percentage of taxes that Mamaroneck has to cover, compared to 5.4% of the county levy in 2004. As the individual municipality apportions the tax among the property owners in its jurisdiction based on its own assessment formulas, the actual reduction of county taxes in Mamaroneck for the individual homeowner is not yet known.
A crack cocaine bust in the Washingtonville section of Mamaroneck has residents relieved. After a year-long undercover operation by local and state police, 12 people have been charged with felonies for selling crack cocaine in the neighborhood. 8 have been arrested, and the remaining suspects are expected to be brought in soon by police. And 7 of the 8 arrested thus far are from Mamaroneck.
In January, we reported about a shooting and robbery at a Harrison bar that took place at 2 a.m. on January 13th. One of the people at the bar was Mamaroneck Village Officer Scott Croce, who at the time of the shooting was not on duty. The people at the bar called him a hero because he distracted the robber and ran out of the bar. The robber followed him and shot him twice, but did not cause any serious injury. After the incident became public, a lawyer, Jonathan Lovett, made claims that Croce was an employee at the bar. Attorney Lovett represented former Mamaroneck Village Officer Jeremy Skian when he made allegations about alleged misconduct at the Mamaroneck Police Department. A series of hearings last year on this issue did not produce any evidence of such misconduct. The Mamaroneck Police Department has now said that Attorney Lovett was not able to provide any information to substantiate his claim. As far as the Mamaroneck Police Department is concerned, its investigation did not find any evidence of the claim made by Lovett.
For parents with young children or anyone driving with young children, remember, a new booster car seat law goes into effect on March 27th in Westchester County. Children between the ages of 4 and 6 now must be in age and size appropriate booster seats. For the first month of the new law, violators will be given notifications of the law, but after that, fines will range from $25 to $100. Low-income families unable to purchase booster seats may call Westchester Safe Kids at 592-7555 for assistance.
The winter months are usually a time for an increase in the number of people without a job. This winter, however, is different. The jobless rate in Westchester, Putnam, and Rockland has gone down significantly. For Westchester County, the jobless rate was 4.1% in January, which was down from 5% in January of 2004. The respective numbers for Putnam County are 3.7%, which is down from 4.1% in January of 2004. Putnam actually had the second lowest unemployment rate in New York State, while Westchester tied for 4th place. In the Putnam-Rockland-Westchester region, 11,700 jobs were added, which represents an increase of 2.1%, according to the New York State Labor Department. At the beginning of the year, the Labor Department started to combine numbers for Westchester, Putnam, and Rockland counties. Jobs were added in the finance and insurance sector. About 1,300 jobs were added there. In specialty trade contracting, 1,000 jobs were added, and in healthcare and social assistance, 2,100 jobs were added to the payrolls. That's good.
That's good news.
I'm glad.
Well, in the face of Catholic school closings, one local school thrives. Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News reporter Brad Martz has the details.
Just as 4 other schools within Westchester parishes are being closed by the New York Archdiocese, St. John and Paul School has its largest kindergarten enrollment in many years. Father Brian McWeeny attributes the success of the Larchmont School to a number of factors, including parishioner support, a strong parent group, and a new full-day kindergarten program, which each class being staffed by a teacher and an aide. In the 1950s and 60s, with an enrollment nearing 500 students, the parish was experiencing the same boom all Catholic schools were experiencing at that time. Over the past decade, however, enrollments have hovered between 225 and 325 students. As suggested by Father Brian, the numbers are healthy, however, an eye must be kept on the future. On February 16th, the Archdiocese of New York announced that it was closing 6 schools in the area, 4 being Westchester elementary schools. These Westchester schools included Holy Family School in New Rochelle, Our Lady of Mount Carmel, St. Anthony in Yonkers, St. Matthew's School in Hastings-on-the-Hudson, and St. Pius X in Scarsdale. According to reports, these schools had enrollment and financial difficulties that required the Archdiocese to contribute over $1.28 million in the past 2 years. With parents still interested in having their children receive a Catholic education, St. John and Paul School has been receiving calls from parents of the closed schools inquiring about enrollment, and some have already enrolled. So how did the Larchmont Parish survive the cuts? As stated by Father Brian, the Archdiocese does not assist us financially in any way. The Archdiocese does, however, provide oversight and training, but no funds. 20% of their funds come from parishioner donations, and the rest is obtained through tuition and fundraising. Tuition is approximately $3,000 per child, and the Parent Association is the major force behind the fundraising efforts. Mary Tracy, the co-chair of the Parish School Parents Association, sums it up this way. Bottom line, these parents want a Catholic education for their children, and the values and morals they teach that can get lost in the shuffle of things, that's still instilled in this school. For Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News, I'm Brad Martz.
I spoke with the kids from the World Health Organization. Here's my interview. Well, I'm joined here tonight by 4 7th graders from Homix who are going to tell us about the upcoming expo that will be taking place on March 23rd at the Homix School. I'm going to be speaking with Harry first. Harry, I'd like you to tell us about the expo that's coming up.
Well, it's going to be on March 23rd in the auditorium at Homix, and there we are going to try to explain to the public about what all these neglected diseases are all about, like about each neglected disease. We're
Right.
gonna give people the chance to go around and learn about them, and we're gonna have some people come and talk about the neglected diseases.
Okay, and it's the World Health Organization.
Yes.
Okay, and I think that's important for people to know. We want to educate the public about these neglected diseases
Yes.
and some of the ways that this is going to be happening. Jake, can you tell us about it?
Sure. Well, when you come into the building, you'll be greeted by several of Kids for World Health members. They will show you to the Wheel of Misfortune. You'll spin the wheel, and basically the wheel will land on a color, and that will guide you to a specific station where there will be someone dressed as a doctor who will explain to you the symptoms of the disease you have, explain to you what the cures are, and explain to you what the disease is.
Now, Jake, you have this all began in the 3rd grade for you,
Yeah.
and your teacher, Miss Kobe, had you guys learn about, I believe it was a show on 60 Minutes that was originally seen about what's happening in the sub-Saharan Africa.
It was.
And the people, adults and kids, who have these bad diseases that have not been, they're not close to hospitals, they're not getting the care they need, and so all of this started, and some of the things that you've been doing for other kids to get awareness of what's going on.
Well, what we've been doing?
Mm-hmm.
Well, some of the time we just try to raise money and small things like school bake sales.
Yes.
Or just asking for donations when we explain to people what the disease is. We speak at any place where we can get people to come to listen to us. We basically just try to educate people on what is going on in sub-Saharan Africa, what is destroying the lives of these people because they don't have the money to buy the things they need.
Sam, you and I were talking before about $70 a life. Can you explain to the public what that means?
Well, so that means that obviously $70 saves a life, but to us that seems like that's just an easy thing to do. Like it's not hard, but to them that's like $1 million for us, and it's not easy to get.
And what does that $70 buy?
It buys the right medicine to cure the patient.
And you had also mentioned about a pediatric hospital?
Yeah, we're actually we're getting a wing. We've raised enough money to get a wing in sub-Saharan Africa.
Wow, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
I have a lot of respect for you guys. Peter, I understand that if people want to get involved, there's a way they can get involved and find out more about what you're doing. Not only to come to the expo, which, Harry, can you tell us again when it's going to be?
It's going to be on March 23rd.
At the Hummock School,
Yes, in the lobby of the auditorium.
6:15,
Yes.
correct? And Peter, is there another way that people can find out how to get in touch with you?
By our website.
Really?
Yeah, we
Can-
have a website. Yeah.
Really? And would you show us?
It's on the back of the shirts. The website is called, well,
Point it out.
www.kfwh.org.
Okay, that's www.kfw.org. And I think that's such a worthy cause. I have so much respect for what you've done. The fact that you started in 3rd grade and you're doing this now up until 7th grade, I have a feeling that you'll remain helpers to people that need your help, and I'm just very proud of all of you. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you for giving us
Thank
this
you.
chance to tell
My-
everybody who's watching what
My
we're about.
pleasure. Okay.
It's cold and snow's still on the ground, but golf season's coming up. Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News reporter Brad Martz tells how to tee off without getting teed off.
It might not feel like it outside, but golf season is already here, and you better start thinking about your tee time. Westchester County's 6 public golf courses will begin accepting applications for Easy Reserve and assigning tee times for the 2005 season on Saturday, March 12th for Saturday tee times and Sunday, March 13th for Sunday tee times. Doors open at 8 a.m. both days. The Easy Reserve system allows golfers to block out designated tee times for most of the season on Saturdays and Sundays. The number of blocked times is limited, and only one will be sold to a customer. Tee times begin Saturday, April 16th and run through Sunday, October 2nd. There is one exception, however, that being Dunwoody Golf Course. A greens rehabilitation project is scheduled to be completed this spring, so tee times there will begin May 8th. There is an Easy Reserve fee of $250 per player, $200 per player at Dunwoody, due when tee times are assigned. You must have a Westchester County pass to make an Easy Reserve reservation. Reserved tee times will be assigned on a first-come, first-served basis, and greens fees are required to be paid at check-in each week. Fees are non-refundable, and cancellations must be made at least 2 days in advance via telephone reservation system. For more information about the Easy Reserve program, or to download an application, or to learn more about Westchester County golf courses, log on to westchestergov.com/parks or call the County Parks Department at 914-864-7011. So get the clubs out, dust them off, and think sun. For Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News, I'm Brad Martz.
And an update on last week's story about the Mamaroneck Schools Foundation. Grants were awarded on March 7th. 35 grants totaling $328,000. The grants include substantial donations to help enhance Mamaroneck High School's new student cafe, which is scheduled to open next fall, and to help remodel the Homick's Commons into a more inviting and engaging environment. Several technology grants will fund equipment such as document cameras that can project any document onto a screen for teaching, new computers for the improved College Information Center in the high school, and new technical equipment for the Homick Science program. A district-wide grant called Building Bridges grew out of the work of the Understanding Handicaps Task Force and will offer resources for building awareness and sensitivity across all the schools. All of the local elementary schools will also benefit from an author in residence program with distinguished author Patricia Polacco, and a program funded in part by the Barbara Bennett Rhones Memorial Endowment will create bilingual family mornings at the Mamaroneck Library for young children and their families. Now, we told you last week of a generous $100,000 anonymous donation designated for training and staff development. $40,000 of that donation will be used to send teachers to national and local conferences, to form study groups and purchase texts for training teachers. Since its founding in 1986, the Mamaroneck Schools Foundation has meted out $1.25 million in grants, all of which goes into our schools. And that's it for this week's edition of Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News.
If you want to see this show, again, you can. It's on every weekday night at 7 p.m. We record one show each week and it's replayed on this channel, LMC-TV, Channel 75.
Or if you want to request to see it, you can. Call LMC-TV after 4 in the afternoon during the week at 698-6808 and ask to see the news show. They'll try to put it on at a time that's convenient for you to watch.
And this reminder, this news program is an all-volunteer effort, and we could use a few more volunteers, either behind the scenes or as a reporter, or maybe you like to shoot video. Whatever the case, we need you.
In short, if you want to volunteer to help us put this program on, believe me, we have something for you to do. Stop by some Thursday night in the LMC-TV studios and see how we do what we do.
The LMC-TV studios are in the Mamaroneck High School, the Palmer Avenue side, just up the stairs, across the street from the landmark Walter's Hot Dog stand. I know. We get things started around 7 p.m. and we would love to see you.
Also, if you have any comments or suggestions or some video of an event that you'd like us to put on this news show, bring it to the studio or write to us at Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News in care of LMC-TV, 1 Library Lane, Mamaroneck, New York, 10543.
Thanks again for watching Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News. I'm Amy Schachtel.
And I'm Maura Carlin. See you next week.
I'll see you next week too, won't I?
Yes, you will.
That was a good show.
No surprises in the Village of Larchmont election.
B-line buses still on strike.
A proposed school budget for Mamaroneck.
Tips on finding cheaper gas.
And local hockey players score big. Those stories and more coming up on this edition of Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News.
Hello and welcome to Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News. I'm Sven Oehmer.
And I'm Maura Carlin. Our top story. Larchmont election results are in, and it's really no surprise. Incumbent trustees, Democrat Ann McAndrews and Republican Mike Weiner, won, but they also ran unopposed, as did Republican Thea Beaver, who was re-elected village justice. According to village election results, 284 residents voted out of the approximate 4,000 registered voters. Mr. Weiner received 145 votes, Ms. McAndrews 198, and Justice Beaver received 270. Congratulations.
At the time of the taping of this program, the B-line bus strike still continued. The two sides have not been able to resolve the issues and reach a common position. County Executive Andrew Spano has criticized the County Workers Union Local 100 that represents the drivers. Spano had sided with Liberty Lines and had described the demands of the union as unreasonable. According to him, the union demands would mean an unacceptable increase in bus fares on the one hand, or a bigger burden on the taxpayers on the other hand. Taxpayers are already subsidizing the county bus system with $25 million per year. Spano has now called for an immediate cooling-off period for the bus strike. During the cooling-off period, drivers would return to work while the union and the Liberty Lines management continue the negotiations to settle the bus strike. Spano said, quote, "The riding public has suffered enough, and so too have the bus drivers and union members who have not been paid in 2 weeks. A cooling-off period during which negotiations would continue would help everyone," end of quote. While the county is not directly involved in the negotiations, Spano is following developments very closely and is in constant communications with those who are directly involved. In a press release on March 16th by the Department of Transportation, he made it very clear one more time, quote, "I support Liberty Lines because if the union demands are met, it would lead to an increase in bus fares and in property taxes. Liberty Lines has made important concessions, but the union has not moved," end of quote. He also added that the union is continuing the strike, which is affecting 50,000 riders and school children. The union represents 568 drivers and other bus workers. The union demands a 15% increase of salaries over 3 years and retiring bus drivers at age 57 with full benefits. The Liberty Lines position is to lower the retirement age to 60 years and to raise salaries over a 5-year period by 10%.
A 7.5% tax hike. That's what residents are looking at in the proposed nearly $96 million Mamaroneck Schools budget for 2005-06. The budget calls for a spending increase of 7.21%. The proposed budget responds to the community input expressed at a series of budget workshops last fall, decreases in class size limits in kindergarten and increased staffing at the high school in order to maintain current class sizes with growing enrollment, continues funding to maintain special education students in the least restrictive environment, and supports the continued building construction program already underway. Now, this is tempered by concerns over rising tax increases. According to School Superintendent Sherry King, mandated expenses will go up by 6% next year, and although the extra items in the budget would add almost 2.3% more, other spending cuts offset this number and bring it down 1%. The school board held public hearings on March 12th and 15th before a final budget will be adopted on April 12th.
It is becoming more and more difficult to find cheap gas, and all indicators at the moment point to an even further increase the price of a gallon of gas. According to the Westchester County Consumer Protection website, the average price of gas for March was $2.193. The stations with the cheapest gas prices seem to be in Mount Vernon, Yonkers, and New Rochelle, but not in Mamaroneck or Larchmont. Drivers should compare prices as they travel around the county and check out the cheapest pumps. Expectations from experts are that the price of oil is going to stay high, might even go higher, and that will reflect on an increase in the price of gas that we will have to pay at the pump.
A recent issue of Westchester Magazine rates local public high schools and puts Mamaroneck High School at 16 out of 43 schools. In a recent newsletter, Mamaroneck School Superintendent Sherry King shared her thoughts on the survey and the ranking. Dr. King points out that the highest ranked schools in the survey all have homogeneous populations. Mamaroneck, however, is a diverse community with that diversity reflected in the school population, and it impacts almost every criterion in the survey, including the school's average SAT scores and the percentage of students attending four-year colleges. Also, according to Dr. King, the most significant rating category, the weighted challenge index, which measures how vigorously a school challenges its students, is an area that the Mamaroneck School District has already been working on the last several years and has made substantial progress. For example, a 35% increase in the number of students taking advanced placement courses. As for the top performers in the Westchester Magazine survey, they're Edgemont, Chappaqua, and Briarcliff. They topped the list. Rhinebeck was 18.
Alexandra Heiss recently became the Con Edison Athlete of the Week. She is a senior at Mamaroneck High School and decided when she was in 7th grade to go into fencing. She had already been doing karate, currently a black belt, since the age of 6. Obviously, she wasn't really sure how good she was going to be at fencing when she got involved, but that is where she has really succeeded. She won 65% of her matches as a freshman and continued to move ahead. Last March, she won the National Cup in Division III. Later that year, she won gold in the Empire State Games and placed 5th in Division 1A and Division II groups at the Summer Nationals last July. Just recently, she finished first at the North Atlantic Junior Sectional Qualifier, and this April, she will be at the Junior and Senior Sectionals and later in July in the Summer Nationals. After graduating Mamaroneck High School this year, she will go on to study at Cornell, where she also will continue her fencing career, and maybe we'll see you at the Olympics.
Congratulations, Alexandra. New openness in the village of Mamaroneck. Village trustee Tom Murphy sat down with me to explain. Take a look. I'm joined by Tom Murphy, trustee for the village of Mamaroneck, in fact, the lone Democrat on the board there. Thanks for joining us, Tom.
Thank you for having me, Maura.
Now, you're here to tell us about some new openness in the governing in the village of Mamaroneck. What's going on?
Well, at the last board meeting on Monday, March 14th, the village board voted to allow LMC-TV to televise the zoning and the planning board meetings. This is something I've been working on since I got on the board, and I think it'll allow for more openness and to educate the public about how these decisions are made in our community, and hopefully it'll bring more people down and bring more input for the boards and commissions.
Now, this was a proposal that you put forward.
Yes, it is.
You've been working on it for a while. Did you see that think it was going to pass?
I hoped it was going to pass. Nobody was ever outwardly negative about it. There were some reservations, and and some of those reservations I can understand. And it's hard to try something new. And one of the things that when in the final version of the resolution, what I put in there was that we would try it for 6 months, because there's always the law of unintended consequences, and and I don't have all the answers. And maybe if it doesn't work out after 6 months, we could say, all right, we tried it and it didn't work. So I think
a trial period.
A trial period. I think that's what made it more palatable to some of the other fellows on the board.
Okay. Well, the vote was 3-2 for it, and obviously
correct.
people had to cross party lines if you're the only Democrat on the board. Recently in the village, there's a zoning issue regarding the marine recreation law, and a consultant's report was put forth, and afterwards the community came out saying that it was a completely flawed report. And as I understand it, the village then decided to appoint a second consultant. And this is all fairly recent.
Right.
My question is, do you think that played into the supporting, getting people involved or able to see what's going on earlier in the process?
Yes, I do. I think people in Mamaroneck have a sense of propriety about our waterfront. And they want to, even if you don't live on the waterfront, we feel that we're a waterfront community, and it's integral to who we are as a village. And people want to protect the recreational nature of the waterfront. You know, 20 years ago when Mamaroneck passed the Marine Recreation District, and it was a bipartisan, venture. It started under Susie Oppenheimer, and it was completed under Paul Noto. When we did that, it was very counterintuitive. A lot of the communities around us were allowing, the development on the waterfront that was residential and that wasn't water dependent. And Mamaroneck, took that stand, and it served the community well over the years. We've kept the businesses that are water dependent, and we've allowed the clubs to flourish, and it makes for a more pleasant place to live.
Well, and so the issue that came up, the marine recreation law, it had to do with a zoning change sought by the Mamaroneck Beach and Yacht Club, right?
Well, actually, it had to do more with an interpretation of the law. Okay. The law, as it was written, stated that seasonal housing
right.
Could be allowed as an accessory use. And really the question is now is if we're going to allow seasonal housing as if we're going to change the law to take that out, or if we leave seasonal housing in the present law, how are we going to define seasonal housing? Because any law, can't cover everything. And originally, this law, it didn't define what seasonal housing was and where it could be and the extent of it. And that's really, the question is if we allow it, and if we do, how do we allow it?
Well, is this one of the issues that you'd expect to be the subject of these hearings that will be aired?
Yes, I'm sure that'll, hopefully within the next 6 months, the new consultant report, which is the Department of State, the New York State Department of State is the consultant, will come back and it'll go to the Board of Trustees and go to the Planning Commission for review and input, and people could obviously see what's happening at the Board of Trustees because we're already televised, but also see the process at the planning stage. And there's going to be a lot of development in Mamaroneck, as there is in any community over the next 10 years.
There's some apartment complexes
there are
that are
apartment
also
complexes
proposed.
that are proposed. There's different businesses that want to change, and development isn't a bad thing, and I'm not against development, but I think that we need everyone to know what the plans are, and people in Mamaroneck feel, there's so many people who are born and raised here, and they feel such a sense of ownership of the community. And just because they're not noticed about, they're within the 400 feet of being noticed, they still feel that, they want input, and they should have it.
And this way, they'll be able to see what's going on and know and get their input in earlier.
Exactly, because, most zoning and planning things go, 2, 3, 4 months, so people...
Here was news on a proposed crackdown on fake IDs, as Larchmont Mamaroneck community news reporter Brad Martz.
Teens, beware. If you are caught with a doctored or forged license, you are risking a suspension of your license for 1 year or until you are 21, whichever is longer. Westchester District Attorney Janine Pirro and Governor George Pataki unveiled this legislation on March 11th. We thought that the most effective way to stop the flow of alcohol to young people is to tell them that if you chalk your license, you lose it, Pirro said. She also suggested that current laws are not tough enough. Currently, teens caught with fake IDs can be charged with criminal possession of a forged instrument and face jail time, but they more often than not receive youthful offender status and incur only minor penalties. Governor Pataki agrees with District Attorney Pirro regarding the current need for stricter penalties to help reduce the underage drinking problem. More than 4,000 drivers under the age of 21 were arrested last year in New York for driving under the influence of alcohol. Governor Pataki hopes that this will be a common-sense way to make it harder for underage drinkers to buy alcohol. Governor Pataki said he is going to encourage the state legislature to pass his bill this session. For Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News, I'm Brad Martz.
I had the chance to speak with Village of Mamaroneck trustee Tom Murphy about what's going on there. Here's the interview. I know it's budget season, so can you tell us what's going on with the budget for the Village of Mamaroneck?
In December, I believe, Lenny Verestra, who's our village manager, had some tentative numbers that that weren't complete, and he projected 10.49
percent tax increase.
Percent tax increase. But I actually talked to Lenny today, and he's going to come out with the the draft budget, and he doesn't think it's going to be near that high. And then, you know, after the draft budget comes out, it goes back to us as trustees, and we meet with the different department heads, and we keep slicing and dicing until hopefully we get it down to an acceptable number.
And do you have an acceptable number in mind?
Yeah, you know, I would love to have it be zero, and I'd love to sit here and say it's going to be zero. That would be, you know, my goal. But the truth of the matter is there are a lot of things that are built in that you have to take into account. You know, employees get raises every year. Healthcare costs skyrocket. Pension costs for the state skyrocket. And these are things that are out of our control. And, you know, there will be a tax increase. We're going to keep it, I know myself, and I know the four fellows that I serve would feel exactly the same way. We want to keep it at the minimum that we can to keep the services that we have now. You know, there's a lot of people in the village of Mamaroneck that are on the cusp. You know, every year they have to weigh whether they could still afford to live here, and we want to, you know, make it as easy as we can.
So
for
you're very
people.
conscious of
Oh, without
that.
a doubt.
And are you finding, being the only Democrat on the board, that it's contentious, or are you finding that you're all able to work together?
You know, I think I think for the most part, everybody does what they think is best for the village. Sometimes there are disagreements about what's best for the village, but you know, I certainly feel that the other guys are doing what they think is best, and I hope they feel that I'm doing what I think is best for the village. And sometimes, you know, there are convergent ideas, and you know, we are all passionate people. And sometimes that idea is, you know, in the course of working it out, it might get a little loud, but that's the village of Mamaroneck.
Well, even though it's still cold outside, it is just about spring.
Yes, thank God.
Is there going to be swimming this summer in Mamaroneck?
Yes, I'm sure for the third summer in a row, because of the Gundaboom, they'll be swimming inside the Gundaboom.
Why don't you just remind us what the Gundaboom is?
The Gundaboom was something that the village purchased originally in the early 90s. And what it is, it was originally developed to contain oil spills, I think in Alaska. But what they also found that if you set it up on a U shape like we have in the harbor, within the U, the bacteria counts, because there's a membrane on it, the bacteria counts in that U will drop below the level where you're allowed to swim. So you're allowed to swim within that U.
So you'll be able to keep a horseshoe-shaped area
Exactly.
free for swimming
Exactly.
this summer. Well, that's certainly good news.
Yes, you know, that and the addition of the spray ground down in the harbor a few years ago has brought, you know, a lot of younger people with children back down to the beach, and you know, it's something that is, you know, an extra plus for the Harbor Island.
That's great.
Yeah.
Is there anything else going on in the village that you want to tell us about, we should know about?
Well, you know, there's always something going on in the village of Mamaroneck. They're going to be continuing the streetscape up Mount Pleasant Avenue. That was, you notice what was done on Mamaroneck Avenue.
Right.
And part of community development block grant, they're going to be continuing it up Mount Pleasant.
Right.
We're working on a new firehouse.
Okay.
Hopefully that'll come to fruition within the next year or two.
Okay. Well, I hope that you won't be a stranger, and you and your fellow trustees will come on in and talk to us some more and let us know what's going on.
Pleasure
Okay?
being here. Thank you
Thanks
very
a lot,
much.
Tom.
Bye-bye.
Is the town of Mamaroneck closer to welcoming a new apartment building? Larchmont Mamaroneck community news reporter Brad Martz tells us what's going on or up.
On March 2nd, the Town of Mamaroneck Board moved much closer to approving a new apartment building to the Washington Square neighborhood. The board unanimously adopted an SEQR, or New York State Environmental Quality Review finding, that outlined their response to the Forest City Daily proposal to construct an apartment and retail complex on the Madison Avenue site. The board vote, however, did not completely endorse the project as the developer initially proposed it. In fact, there were some changes. The town SEQR finding allows for no more than 159 apartments, with 9 units designated as workforce housing. The developer initially requested 186 apartments, all at full market value, then reduced that number to 162 apartments, with 6 units designated as workforce housing when their initial proposal was rejected. In addition to changing the total number of apartments, the town is asking for a few additional improvements. The town is asking for a traffic light at the I-95 ramp and Madison Avenue intersection to be added. It's asking for funding for the visual upgrading of the site and construction of a parking deck with parking spaces reserved for Washington Square residents and shoppers. Residents of the new apartment complex would be required to pay a parking fee in addition to their monthly rent. And if you're worried about your favorite retailers leaving the site because of the project, don't. Currently, it is believed all retailers on the site will remain. After other proposals for this site have been rejected for various reasons, Supervisor O'Keefe believes that this is a good proposal, one that reflects the town's standards very well. For those interested in seeing the town SEQR findings statement, copies are available in the town clerk's office and will soon be available on the website. The next step is one for the developer. Forest City Daily must revise its zoning application and then file that application with the zoning board, where additional public hearings will be held to discuss the plans. On March 2nd, the board also unanimously adopted a Westchester County resolution urging the continuation of federally sponsored community development block grants. The grants that brought in $7 million to Westchester County municipalities are scheduled to be eliminated in 2006. Monies from these grants allowed for sidewalk and curb renovations in Mamaroneck and Larchmont, and the sidewalk renovation in the Dillon Park area of Mamaroneck. It is the hope of the board that these valuable grants will continue and be available for additional improvements. For Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News, I'm Brad Martz.
There was partner swinging and do-si-doing in Mamaroneck. Here with the high-stepping details is Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News reporter Amy Schachtel.
This past Tuesday evening, Swing Your Partners could be heard all around the Mamaroneck Avenue School. Fifth graders and their parents enjoyed a hoedown good time. Everyone enjoyed traditional square dancing, the Virginia reel, and the electric slide, which is today's version of country line dancing. The event was sponsored by the school's phys ed department, and that's where the kids learned all their moves. And here's some scenes from the occasion. On the left, we see Rachel Cipriano and her mom. Mamaroneck Avenue School art teacher, Justine Diani, wearing a cowboy hat. And with their backs to the camera, Tiana Pelliccio and her daughter. PTA generously provided the refreshments, and a great time was had by all. For Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News, I'm Amy Schachtel.
Also, there's no NHL hockey this year. There's local hockey. Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News reporter Amy Schachtel checks out a local team's big win.
Mamaroneck has a hockey team, the Mamaroneck Mighty Mites? What do you call them?
Mite Tigers.
The Mite Tigers. And I'm here with Andrew Carlin. Hello, Andrew.
Hi.
I understand you're the goalie for the team. Yeah? And it's a traveling team?
Yeah.
Can you tell me a little bit about the team's success lately?
Well, first our team was very weak, but then our coach made us improve.
Really? How did your coach do that?
He just told us better drills.
Oh, that's
and harder
great.
drills.
And what is your coach's name?
David Witt.
David Witt. And where have you been traveling as a traveling team?
Around Long Island usually.
Really? And the last game that you played?
White Plains.
And who won?
We did.
What was the score?
6-3.
6-3? That's a great score? That's good.
Or 6-2.
Oh, okay. And how long have you been playing hockey?
4.5 years.
Really? And how old are you?
8.
So you've been playing more than half your life. So how old were you when you started ice skating?
I think around 3.
Really? Now, this jersey that you're wearing, and you've got the tiger right on there. That's great. This is from, you told me,
The first year.
the very first year that you played?
Travel hockey.
That's great. What's the difference between travel hockey and regular hockey?
Well, travel hockey is much harder, and there's tournaments and it's much more competitive. And regular hockey, it's just everything's much easier, and if you make a mistake, it doesn't matter.
But you're learning as you do it, and
Yeah.
you're having fun?
Yeah.
That's great. And the position you play is?
Goalie.
And is that the hardest position there is?
It's probably one of the hardest, but I wouldn't say the hardest.
Have you played other positions?
Yeah.
And do you have one that you like the best?
Goalie.
It is?
Yeah.
So you're going to do this. Now, let me ask you, do you think you might want to play hockey when you grow up?
Yeah.
Really? And do you have any idols in the hockey field that you...
Patrick Roy,
What team does he play on?
the Canadians, and the Colorado Avalanche.
Wow, those are big-time teams, aren't they?
Yep.
That's terrific. Now, I think some of your teammates would like to hear their names mentioned for all the hard work that they've done. So I'd like you to thank them.
Eric Alimanestiano,
Okay.
Sammy Blunt, Hunter Boyle, Anders Caputo, Corey Eisenbaum, Chase Jager, Jack Knowles, Spencer Cuffer, Cooper Lavin, Ryan Pabazoglu, Christian Poirier, Jack Stevenson, and Dylan Witt.
Well,
Congratulations to the Mites.
and congratulations to you, too.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Well, cute as my son is, and I am proud, that wasn't exactly the story about his team winning the White Plains March 2005 Mite Invitational Tournament. The Mites are the youngest Mamaroneck hockey players. They're 7- and 8-year-olds. And they were playing against teams from White Plains, Bedford, and Bronxville. And the Mite Tigers went undefeated and beat the White Plains Plainsmen in the finals.
And we're showing you some pictures of the adorable team led by head coach David Witt and coaches Roland Caputo and Peter
Good luck.
Papazoglu. This team of young players, with only one returning player from last year, came a long way since the beginning of the season, making their coaches and parents obviously very proud.
I can say that we are. Spring is here, and you know what that means. I'm not talking about better weather. It's the LMC-TV 6th annual Almost Anything Goes short video contest. The grand prize is a digital camcorder donated by Cablevision. In addition, there are 3 $100 prizes to be given in each of the following age groups categories: kindergarten through 8th grade, high school, and adult.
The LMC-TV contest has 5 categories: public affairs, documentary, drama, comedy, public service announcements, and advertisements, and art music. The winner in each category will receive a certificate. All submissions will be shown on LMC-TV, and winners will be showcased at a special awards show. The contest is open to all who live, work, go to school, own a business, or regularly volunteer for an organization in Larchmont, Mamaroneck, and Rhine-Neck.
The deadline for submitting entries is 6 p.m. on Friday, May 20th. For more information or to get an entry form, contact LMC-TV at 914-381-2002, extension 202, or visit LMC-TV's website, www.lmc-tv.org. And that's it for this week's edition of Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News.
If you want to see this news show, you can. It's on every weekday night at 7 p.m. We record one show each week, and it's replayed on this channel, LMC-TV channel 75.
Or if you want to request to see it, you can. Call LMC-TV after 4 in the afternoon during the week at 698-6808 and ask to see the news show. They'll try to put it on at a time that's convenient for you to watch.
And this reminder, this news program is an all-volunteer effort. We could use a few more volunteers either behind the scenes or as a reporter. Or maybe you'd like to shoot video. Whatever the case, we need you.
In short, if you want to volunteer to help us put this program on, we've got something for you to do. Stop by some Thursday night in the LMC-TV studios and see how we do what we do.
The LMC-TV studios are in the Mamaroneck High School, the Palmer Avenue side, just up the stairs across from the landmark Walter's hot dog stand. We get things started around 7 p.m. and we would love to see you.
Also, if you have any comments or suggestions or some video of an event that you'd like us to put on this new show, bring it to the studio or write to us at Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News in care of LMC-TV, 1 Library Lane, Mamaroneck, New York, 10543.
Thanks again for watching Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News. I'm Sven Oehme.
I'm Maura Carlin. See you next time. A new councilman for the town of Mamaroneck.
A Another update on the 4-week-old bus strike.
A new power source could be whirling about.
Prom dress ideas.
And could it be MTV in Larchmont? Those stories and more coming up on this edition of Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News.
Hello and welcome to Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News. I'm Sven Oehme.
And I'm Maura, Carlin. Our top story. And the new Town of Mamaroneck councilman is Paul Winnick. The Mamaroneck Town Board unanimously agreed to appoint Winnick to the seat vacated by now County Legislator Judy Myers. Winnick, a Democrat, has been serving as Town Supervisor Valerie O'Keefe's deputy since 2000. He is an attorney who has lived in the community for over 16 years. Since 1992, Winnick has served as the chair of the Town of Mamaroneck Housing Authority that oversaw construction of the Hommocks Park Apartments. He has been a member of the Town Zoning Board of Appeals since 1999 and is chair of the University Club of Larchmont Scholarship Committee. Winnick was nominated by Councilwoman Phyllis Whitner, and his appointment keeps the partisan composition of the board, 4 Democrats and 1 Republican, the supervisor who had made Winnick her deputy. Welcome, Mr. Winnick, and congratulations.
The bus strike at the B-Line system in Westchester County continued at the time of the taping of this program. Negotiators for Liberty Lines, the bus operator, and the union were meeting again last week. There have been calls for a cooling off period. However, the union has so far rejected agreeing to the proposal. The positions of the B-Line operator and the union are still far apart. The union wants to allow drivers to retire at age 57 after 20 years of service with full health and pension benefits. The proposal by Liberty Lines has been to lower the retirement age to 60. As far as salaries of the bus drivers are concerned, the company offered a 4-year contract with a 2.25% pay increase for each year. The union wants a 3-year contract with a total increase of the salaries of 15%. Meanwhile, the bus strike has an effect on some local small businesses. As riders of the buses had to look for other means of transportation, they are taking different routes to their offices, and businesses that they usually frequent do not see the numbers of customers they used to. Some business owners are complaining that they are losing 30 to 40% or more of their business income on a daily basis. Westchester County Executive Andrew Spano, who said earlier during the strike that the union demands can only be financed through a tax hike, has been criticized for traveling to China during the bus strike. Spano said that the purpose of the trip was to increase business links between China and Westchester. The union has put out flyers arguing that at the time of the strike, he should be in Westchester County and not in China.
Big news directly from the state legislature. Here's the word. An unexpected, pleasant, surprise guest popped in to speak to us tonight about some big news from the state. Assemblyman George Latimer, thank you so much for coming in. I appreciate it.
It's good to be with you.
You had some big news. What's going on?
Well, live from Albany, literally just out of my car, earlier today on Thursday, we passed our state budget for 2005-2006 fiscal year, and it is the first time in over 20 years that the state budget was passed on time. And that's been a major irritant for school districts, for village governments, and I think for citizens in general who wanted to know, why are we so dysfunctional up there? Can't we get our act together? This year, my first year there, we got the job done on time.
Well, that was one of the things that you went to Albany seeking to pass the budget by April 1, right? That was
right. That's the deadline date. And I think what it comes down to is people in their everyday lives, in the experiences they've had in their business life or their professional life, and even in local governments. I mean, Larchmont Village, Mamaroneck Town wouldn't dream of having a late budget, and New York did it as a state for 20 consecutive years. But I think there's something that's happened up in Albany this year. I see a greater spirit of bipartisanship, which is almost unheard of up there, where Republicans and Democrats are trying to find some common ground, where there is an understanding that things have gone off track and we need to get them back on track.
having passed the budget, any good news on those state-mandated funding requirements that people have been complaining about?
Well, what we were looking at is what were the financial impacts locally here. Very quickly, the Mamaroneck schools look like they're going to get about an additional $300,000 in aid, which is a decent number. It's about a 5% increase over last year. These numbers may be subject to gubernatorial veto, so we have to be a little tentative for today. The Village of Mamaroneck, Village of Larchmont, Mamaroneck Town are all going to get very small, practically incremental increases in direct aid. The direct aid went next door to New Rochelle this year, more so than into some of these communities. What we did in the medical side of the picture, we undid some of the Medicaid cuts that would have affected institutions like Sarah Newman Nursing Home, which would have suffered a $3 million cut in funding had the original budget gone through, so we've tried to reverse that. And then in local terms, hopefully we're going to find some money to do things for the Mamaroneck Village Fire Department and for the Larchmont Library, which had some money restored.
The town of Mamaroneck is discussing a wind power proposal. The idea is to use wind-generated electricity for 2 of the town's buildings. According to an estimate, emissions might be reduced by 700,000 pounds per year. According to the proposal, the wind-generated energy would come from a so-called wind farm in Fenner, New York. Initially, the cost for the wind energy would increase the energy bill of the town. However, in the longer term, the estimate is that the price of the wind energy will remain rather stable, while all other energy costs may fluctuate greatly and could very well go up. The Mamaroneck Town Board asked the provider of the wind energy, Community Energy, to submit a formal contract that would be studied further by Mamaroneck Administrator Steve Altieri and the town attorney.
A recent Journal News article tracks the proposed budgets of 13 Mid-Westchester villages and the accompanying tax increases if adopted. Expected tax hikes range from 2.8% in Pleasantville to 16.4% right here in the village of Larchmont. The village of Mamaroneck is projecting a 7.97% rise. The average hike is about 8.4%. Each village has until May 1st to adopt a budget, which will become effective June 1.
Former Mamaroneck Village trustee Christy Derrico, who was narrowly defeated in the last Village of Mamaroneck election, has been chosen by the board of the Mamaroneck Larchmont League of Women Voters to be its next president. At the spring annual meeting of the League, the membership will vote on her nomination. Derrico is an attorney in private practice in the Village of Mamaroneck. Former presidents of the Mamaroneck Larchmont League of Women Voters include State Senator Susie Oppenheimer, Village of Mamaroneck trustees Marlene Colbert and Ann McAndrews, and Mamaroneck School Board member April Farber.
And there's also a changing of the guard at the Hispanic Resource Center of Larchmont Mamaroneck. John Gitlitz and Marion Bonio-Levoff, both Village of Mamaroneck residents, were elected co-presidents. Mr. Gitlitz is a professor of political science at SUNY Purchase. He's lived in several Latin American countries and been an activist on human rights issues. He currently is at work on a book about unofficial legal structures in Peru. Ms. Levoff is a music therapist from Argentina. She's been active in the Mamaroneck schools, facilitating communication between the schools and Spanish-speaking families. The co-presidents look forward to new talks with local governments on key issues, including a day laborer hiring site. I'm sure we'll be hearing more from them.
This is a water community, but some residents aren't so happy about where the water is. Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News reporter Brett Martz fills us in.
This wet winter has not been good news for some residents in Larchmont. Homes uphill and upstream from the Pine Brook Drive block that has been the focus of recent concerns over flooding have been having their own concerns. The section consisting of a block bordered by Dawes Place, Island Terrace, Rockwood Drive, and Woods Way sits on land that abuts an area also known as the Duck Pond. The pond is a depression that collects water, sometimes enough to attract ducks, and can also create many problems for nearby residents, such as water and ice hazards in the basements and backyards and nearby roads. After trying, with no success, to resolve the problem with extra dry wells and sump pumps, the residents have turned to the Larchmont Village Board for help. One issue is that the problem arises on private property. The group hopes that Larchmont will be willing to share the costs of building additional infrastructure since several properties and adjacent roads are affected. The icy conditions in that section and others in Larchmont have been of particular concern to the board, according to Mayor Ken Bialo. Larchmont's Engineer Environmental Committee and Consultant Engineer have been working for the past 2 years and devising and implementing solutions for the problem. With the delay in Albany for authorizing the use of money from a New York State Department of Transportation grant, the plans have been delayed for 9 months. The almost century-old storm water pipes were designed to drain water from roadways and were not meant to handle runoff from private properties. The focus over the past several decades has been keeping the possibly polluted runoff from the sanitary sewers. Also, infill building on sites that were once wet has led to problems all over the area, where the water tables at high levels. The residents have been updated by the board on the status of the studies underway and the grant requests in the pipeline. Perhaps the grants to help with the Prime Brook Drive effort will be a source of some support for the duck pond problem. Trustee Colber has been attempting to get New York State Department of Transportation authorization to combine funds from 2 separate grants, one state and one federal, to help with improving storm drains. Congresswoman Nita Lowey's office has secured a $299,000 grant, but that requires the village to come up with the matching funds. Larchmont would like to use the state grant as the match. Another possibility raised was for the residents and village to share the costs of water problems arising on private property. In the meantime, the residents were advised to continue to seek advice from the head of Larchmont's Department of Public Works, Joe Bedard. For Larchmont-Mamaroneck Community News, I'm Brad Martz.
Larchmont-Mamaroneck Community News reporter Kate Fahey talks with some local kids and their moms about their tsunami relief effort.
Hello, I'm here with Linda and Ella Valpano and Jackie and Corey Eisenband, who are with us to talk about Coins for Kids. So guys, what is Coins for Kids?
Well, Coins for Kids was an idea that Corey and Ella came up with to help the children who had lost their families in the tsunami in December, and they wanted to find a way for children to help the children.
And so, how did you collect the money that you got?
We put a box outside by the front office in our school, and people just bring in bags of extra change.
Lunch from their piggy banks.
That's so nice. And so, you decided to donate the money to save the children. Why did you guys choose the organization?
We picked Save the Children because they were already active in the places where the tsunami had struck the worst. We felt like that would be the quickest way to get help.
And the organization was focused on children, so we thought it was appropriate for the kids' fundraising effort.
And so what was your final total?
$1,187.24.
Wow, that's a lot of money. How did you count it?
We put it in a machine at Commerce Bank, and it counted for us.
Very cool. And so can people still donate to Coins for Kids, or?
Well, we've stopped collecting at Murray, but people can still donate to Save the Children. There's an Asian Relief Fund, and they can donate there.
We told you about the upcoming Kids for World Health Night. Well, it's now happened, and Larchmont-Mamaroneck Community News reporter Danny Carlin shares the fun and learning.
This show previously reported on a group of 7th grade students who began a mission in 3rd grade 4 years ago in Chatsworth School to try to help eliminate sleeping sickness in Africa. The Kids for World Health planned an interactive expo event for March 21st to educate the community about the need. It was an amazing event with a nearly packed auditorium at Homix Middle School. The evening began with exhibits of diseases, a way to donate and join, and of course the highly anticipated The Wheel of Misfortune, which was a spoof of the TV show The Wheel of Fortune. You would spin a wheel, receive a couple of clues, and go to each exhibit to try to guess the disease you had received. The audience then followed into the auditorium for a presentation by the founders of Kids for World Health, including a video documenting their efforts, poems, speeches, and a question and answer period. A panel of doctors spoke about the immediate goals. The students also presented a check to the World Health Organization for $20,000 to a fund of Kids for World Health pediatric wing in the school for patients in the Sudan. The money was raised through bake sales, selling bracelets, and soliciting donations. This was definitely a successful evening for not just the group, but for the whole community. For Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News, I'm Danny Carlin.
The Kemper Memorial Fund gets official. Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News reporter Brad Martz has the details.
The Citizens Group for the Preservation of the Kemper Memorial Park has formed a not-for-profit corporation to help raise funds to preserve the park. Even though the Mamaroneck School Board appears to have dropped plans for the park in this year's budget cycle, the Citizens Group is moving forward. With the relocation and redesign of the park, a new ball field is in the plans at the high school campus. The district's plans for the park were blocked on January 6th of this year, and according to Jan Northrup, the president of the new Kemper Memorial Park Preservation Fund, Inc., the fund is in no way affiliated with the Kemper family that donated the park and filed the suit to block the district's plans. Ms. Northrup stated that the fund is committed to representing the entire community. Ms. Northrup envisions all parties to be involved in this community project, including the school district and the 3 municipal governments, the villages of Larchmont and Mamaroneck, and the town of Mamaroneck. As stated by Mark Schumer, one of the directors and treasurer of the fund, the group expects to work hand in hand with the school district, though they have not yet sat down with the district to discuss future relationships. Mr. Schumer also suggested that even though they have raised some money or some funds, many more donations are needed. Backing for this organization comes from commanders of the local veterans organizations, including Edward Murray of the American Legion Post 90, John Thompson of the American Legion Post 347, and Eugene Bartow of the VFW Post 1156. Support also comes from Historical Society presidents Barbara Newman in Larchmont and Leo Spinelli in Mamaroneck. If you are interested in more information or would like to contribute, contact Jan Northrup at 834-5757 or Susan Amlicki at 834-6299. For Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News, I'm Brad Martz.
A local blood drive was a big success. One of the organizers spoke to me about the drive and the need for blood.
Larchmont Fire Department 2 times a year sponsors a blood drive. It is a community blood drive, and we ask for everybody to come out and roll up their sleeve and give the gift of life. We work in coordination with Sound Shore Blood Center, and they are the recipient of that blood. We had a record turnout, and we want to thank the community. We actually had such a good turnout that I would like to take this time to apologize to the people who patiently waited. We had far more people than we usually do. And next time, which will be in September or October, we're going to double the size of the staff so that people don't have to wait as long.
Yeah, tell us about the staff. I mean, if I go there, what happens if I want to give blood?
It's a pretty simple process, and we also have food, so please come help yourself. And there's a short series of questions that you have to take.
And there's a doctor there?
And there's a doctor, and they ask you some questions, and they check your vital signs, your blood pressure, and ask you some questions. It's gotten more challenging over the years to become a contributor because of a lot of more screening requirements, mad cow disease, and things like that. So actually out of, say, every 10 people that turn out, you may only get 7 or 8 of them who are eligible. 2 or 3 people get turned away. So we need that. Blood levels right now are at a record low, and we really need people to come out.
And how often can you give? You do it twice a year, but can you give blood more often?
That's correct. The fire department does 2 drives a year, but you can give blood every 8 weeks. So people can give as often as 6 times a year.
And the next blood drive is going to be in...
It'll be in the fall.
In the fall.
The fire department does a fall and a spring drive.
So you should come to, I guess, to our studios before the fall, or before it takes place, and then you might have an even larger turnout.
Well, thank you. Thank you for the invitation.
Thanks very much for coming.
You're welcome.
The Great White Way is closer to Larchmont than you may think. A producer of 3 Broadway shows, is a local and came into LMC-TV to share her experiences. Take a look. I mean, this is amazing. You have 3 shows, I guess 2 that are going to be on Broadway right now.
Right.
If I remember correctly, Raisin in the Sun with Sean P. Diddy Combs. That was yours?
Yes, that was my first Broadway show. That was my debut as a Broadway producer.
And you were nominated for a Tony.
And I was nominated for a Tony, which was beyond thrilling. And I met another producer from Larchmont who worked on that show, who's doing Dirty Rotten with me, Ruth Hendel. And so there are at least 2 of us here in town.
That's so exciting. And you have Dirty Rotten Scoundrels on Broadway right now.
Correct.
And you have another one opening.
Yep, the 25th annual Putnam County Spelling Bee. We call it Spelling Bee.
Yeah, because that's a mouthful.
Right. And that's another wonderful musical written by William Finn, who wrote Falsettos.
And it's a musical.
It's another musical, right?
When do previews start?
Previews start April 15th, and it opens May 2nd, and that's at Circle in the Square.
And where is Dirty
and
Rotten?
Dirty Rotten is at the Imperial Theater, and that's currently playing. You can get tickets for both by going to telecharge.com or calling Telecharge.
I have to tell you, I saw Dirty Rotten, and it was fabulous. We loved it.
Oh, I'm great.
But what I don't know is, what does a Broadway producer do?
Well,
so what's been your role?
My role on something like Raisin in the Sun, I came in pretty late on the show, so I was really responsible for helping to raise the capitalization and then supporting the production from rehearsals on. At that point, rehearsals were starting. A producer can do anything from coming up with the idea to do the show just from the beginning, or they can get involved with a director who has a project they want to do, or a star. So every project really has a different role. For example, on Spelling Bee, the show was written, it was being done up in Massachusetts at a nonprofit theater, and they brought in some people who they knew if they would be interested in doing the show if it ever moved to Broadway. So I was involved with it in Massachusetts, and then it moved to off-Broadway, and I was involved with it there only minimally, just kind of helping them along. And then once it moved to Broadway, I was the one who was a part of a team who moved it to Broadway. With Dirty Rotten Scoundrels, the composer and the lyricist and the producer all were put together to do the show. So shows can have the lead producer. There's always one lead producer.
How did you get involved in this? I don't mean those particular shows. I mean in being a producer.
Well, years and years ago, I was an actress before I had kids. I had a wonderful career. I worked for a long time and did a lot of shows, toured all over the country. And then I got out of the business to have kids, and I worked in finance.
Funny how they get in the way of that.
I know, it's a little hard to go on the road with kids. So then I worked in finance for a long time and decided I really wanted to go back in theater, and it seemed a natural combination, finance and theater, to go to do the business side of it.
And how is it that Broadway and Larchmont aren't really so far apart?
It's really easy. I mean, it's great to live here. You get to go to the city, you get to go to shows, it's easy to get a train back. Larchmont, as always, actually had a lot of people in theater. If you know, Edward Albee's father had Albee Court, I believe it was Edward Albee's father, and he grew up here. And Walter Kerr, who was a very, very, very famous critic, and Jean Kerr, his wife,
Please Don't Eat the Daisies.
Please Don't Eat the Daisies. They lived here. So it's a natural place to live if you want to live out of the city.
Well, it was exciting to know that you're here, and thank you so much for coming in, and go see the shows, everyone. They're great.
Time to think about the prom and what you'll wear. Maura Carlin surveys the dresses.
I'm joined by Dan Pinaccio of the Pinaccio store on Palmer Avenue in Larchmont to talk about that special quest for the right prom dress, because it's that time of year, Dan. And thanks for joining us. What are girls looking for this season in a prom dress?
They're always looking for a little bit of red carpet, a little glamour, just something that makes them look beautiful.
Well, let's take a look at some dresses that I know that you have and that show some of the trends of what people want in dresses. They seem kind of sexy, looking at, there's our tape. There we go.
Well, they definitely are a little bit of sexiness involved in these dresses. It's usually a particular piece of detail, a lower back, perhaps just a tiny bit of a deep V in the front, a one shoulder, lots of beading. That seems to be what they're looking for the most, is something with a lot of beading.
And is everything long, and even with trains?
The girls are looking for long. The trends, the magazines are trying to push short, but we don't really see as many girls looking for short. They really look for the longer dress and something perhaps with a slit or somewhere else to be a little sexier instead of just short.
So they're looking to show skin even though they're wearing long?
A little bit of skin.
Now, you said the backs tend to be low. There also seems to be, and we'll see on some of these dresses, some of them you can see through the tummy, the illusion, but not in the neck and chest area, but in the stomach.
Right, and people have to remember that one of the things you get when you work with a boutique is that every one of these dresses can be modified. If somebody has a dress they love but they don't want the sheer and the midriff, we'll take fabric and put it in, and we'll get rid of the sheerness somewhere, or we'll add just a little bit more here or there. We can raise the back. There's so many things we can do to a dress to make it just the way you want it.
Oh, that's good to know. Now, looking at this, you see there's a lot of lacing. Some of it, really pretty. That's a big deal this year, the back view.
The back view. There's even on the simpler dresses, we try to carry actually a whole range of dresses from the beaded to the very simple satins, but you always find something special on the back, something a little different. Perhaps that's where they'll put the beading and the lowness. That seems to be what they're looking for.
Now, looking at the dresses in the store on the wider shot we just had, there's a lot of color. And not a lot of black.
A lot of color.
What's going on?
There are some girls who are looking for that black dress, and probably about 20% of the dresses we sell will be sold in black. But color is big. But color, the yellow, we found that's great. Pink is always great. Turquoise is always amazing for us. The happening colors this year are supposed to be the lime greens and things like that, just in the general market as well. But it takes a certain girl to pull off the lime green.
Now, are you finding any fights between mothers and daughters about the sexiness of the dress? Looking at this purple one.
The sexiness of the dress, the height of the shoes, the way they're going to wear their hair,
okay, everything, in other words.
jewelry, absolutely.
A normal mother-daughter relationship.
And we try to be somewhat of a mediator by helping them to redo the dress, to do it the way mom's okay and the daughter feels good.
What's the price point on something like this, looking this beautiful prom night?
These dresses, a lot of those beaded ones, which look like they could be very, very expensive, across the board, you're looking somewhere in the $350 to $450 range is your average dress in our store. We'll have some that start at $250, perhaps $225, and you'll find others that could go to $3,000 or $4,000, but you're really looking at about a $400 expense.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun, Sven. The cameras were rolling at Mamaroneck High School, and it wasn't just ours. Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News reporter Kate Fahey has the story.
MTV News came to Mamaroneck High School on March 31st to film MHS Info, the high school's morning announcements broadcasted to the entire school and community. MTV News visited MHS because it is high school week at TRL, Total Request Live, and they are featuring high schools across the country who have strong video programs like the one here at MHS.
Hi, guys.
So why did MTV come to MHS today?
MTV is here at MHS because it's high school week at TRL. So all of our audience members are from high schools around the country, and we've been visiting as news correspondents other sort of newsrooms in high schools around the country. And I've been to Delaware and Jersey, and we were in Pennsylvania, and then today we're here in New York.
Very cool. Well, thank you for joining us.
Sure.
It was quite an honor for Mamaroneck to be chosen by MTV News as a featured high school. For Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News, I'm Kate Fahey.
And that's it for this week's edition of Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News.
If you want to see this news show again, you can. It's on every weekday night at 7 p.m. We record one show each week, and it's replayed on this channel, LMC-TV, channel 75.
Or if you want to request to see it, you can. Call LMC-TV after 4 in the afternoon during the week at 698-6808 and ask to see the news show. They'll try to put it on at a time that's convenient for you to watch.
And this reminder, this news program is an all-volunteer effort, and we could use a few more volunteers, either behind the scenes or as a reporter, or maybe you'd like to shoot video. Whatever the case, we need you.
In short, if you want to volunteer to help us put this program on, we have something for you to do. Stop by some Thursday night in the LMC-TV studios and see how we do what we do.
The LMC-TV studios are in the Mamaroneck High School, the Palmer Avenue side, just up the stairs across from the landmark Walters hot dog stand. And we get things started around 7 p.m., and we would love to see you.
Also, if you have any comments or suggestions or some video of an event you'd like us to put on this news show, bring it to the studio or write to us at Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News in care of LMC-TV, 1 Library Lane, Mamaroneck, New York, 10543.
Thanks again for watching Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News. I'm Sven Wimmer.
And I'm Maura Carlin. See you next week. the latest on school budgets and school boards.
Are the buses rolling yet?
Could the coolest place in Mamaroneck High School be the library?
Ambitious plans for Flint Park.
And a local Fulbright Scholarship winner. Those stories and more coming up on this edition of Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News.
Hello and welcome to Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News. I'm Sven Oehmer.
And I'm Maura Carlin. Our top story. It's a race for the Mamaroneck Schools Board. There are at least 3 candidates vying for 2 positions in the May 17 election. Incumbent Amy Levere is seeking re-election for a second 3-year term. Village of Mamaroneck resident Richard Marsico, an attorney and law professor at New York Law School, is running for the first time, as is Village of Larchmont resident Gerhard Storer. The committee for the selection of school board candidates for the Mamaroneck School District, or the selection committee, has endorsed both Levere and Marsico after reviewing and interviewing an impressive pool of candidates. Both Levere and Marsico have children who currently attend the Mamaroneck schools. The selection committee has prepared a show to air on this channel with both Levere and Marsico. To find out when it will be airing, you can go to www.lmc-TV.org and look under Programs and Schedules. Gerhard Storer also had submitted an application to the selection committee and was interviewed, but decided to run independently after learning that the selection committee would not change its policy about not endorsing a single-issue candidate. The committee's position is that the ideal candidate puts the student first, while a single-issue candidate puts his issue first. In this instance, Mr. Storer's issue is rising taxes, the 51% tax increase over the past 5 years. Storer is retired from a scientific career at Memorial Sloan Kettering, and his 2 sons attended the Mamaroneck schools. He was a founding member of the Kemper Memorial Preservation Fund, which opposed the Mamaroneck School District's plans to move the Kemper Memorial, but saw the issues as part of a larger problem and resigned from the fund to run for school board. By the way, there could be more candidates, as the deadline for submitting petitions to run is April 18th. The last time a school board election was contested was in 2001, when the selection committee endorsed 1 incumbent and 1 newcomer, and a second incumbent ran and lost. I spoke to the chair of the selection committee about the committee's role and how you can get involved. And if I understand correctly, the selection committee is a group of private citizens who gets together, funds themselves, and selects people to run for school board.
Exactly, right. So that the selection committee itself has 24 members, 4 from each of the 6 from each of the 4 school districts. And our job is to recruit people to run for the school board. And after we have selected a group that we think is most highly qualified, then we interview them and we decide among ourselves who most closely represents all of the criteria that we have been following for as long as the selection committee has been in existence, and we endorse the 2 candidates. The selection committee itself is made up of 24 people who are just interested in the schools. We all serve a 3-year term. There were many different types of people who are on this selection committee, people who are from education. We have chefs, we have cookbook writers, we have people who work in media. So it's a very nice community of people that we have.
All who are district residents.
All who are district residents, right. That's the one requirement, that you are a district resident and that you can vote in the election.
Now, the selection committee itself has been around for about 60 years.
Since 1945, yes.
And do you have the same basic guidelines as to how you go about selecting?
Pretty much. I suppose that some of the criteria are the same, but they're probably maybe more modernized. But the basic criteria are, what you would expect. You're just upstanding people, people who are passionate about education, people who have a broad range of skills that they could bring to the board, and people who are really, truly interested in maintaining the high caliber of school district that we currently have.
Now, someone who is not endorsed by the selection committee can still run.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And you have that situation this year.
That's right, that this is the first time that this has happened in I think maybe 3 or 4 years.
Right, that's not that long. I remember 2001.
Right. So that this year we do have a contested election, which is informative in the one sense because it does prove to everybody that even though we endorse our candidates, that there is always the possibility and the open availability for anybody who wants to run for the school board, to run for the school board and to run against our endorsed candidates. So that, you know, by having somebody running this year, you know, it just proves that that we do have a democratic process because anybody can run who wants to run.
So you're answering the critics who complain that the committee itself is not a democratic
Well,
process.
that's right. But on the other hand, our endorsed candidates do tend to win for the simple reason that the community is confident in our ability to really select very strong, capable, and dedicated school board members.
Now, this year there are 2 positions open on the board.
Right.
You had at least 3 people who were seeking that spot.
This year we had many more candidates seeking our endorsement than we have as long as I've been on the board.
Any idea why that was? Why this year there seemed to be more interest?
Well, part of the reason is that we are always looking for people so that we may ask a person in this year to run, but they could be busy. So they say, see us in 2 years. And I think that that's what happened. It was just a buildup of all of our previous
all the attempts you've used, the solicitations of people earlier.
Exactly, yeah, the solicitations.
Now, I know that while you've chosen who the committee will endorse for school board, you are actively looking for selection committee members.
That's
right
right,
now.
because our selection committee gets refurbished by 8 new members every single year because,
I'm sorry.
All right.
If somebody is interested, how do they get involved? If they are interested in being on the selection committee?
Right. They could ask another selection committee a member, what the experience is like. They could call me at 834-4388, and they could talk to me. I would send them an application. The process is very simple. That you just request an application, and return it completed with a picture, and that's it. Then you start telling your friends that you are running for the selection committee.
And you're elected the same day as the school budget's voted on and the same day that the school board members are voted on.
Right. So everything happens on the same day. The only difference is that the selection committee voting apparatus is at a distant location from where the actual legal official voting booths are. So the people have to look, take a few more steps after they voted for the budget and the school board candidates to find us.
You only get to vote for the people in your elementary school district.
That's right. Okay. That's right, because there are going to be 2 from each of the elementary school districts.
What's the deadline to get in applications?
All right. The application should be completed in my hands by April 14th.
Okay. Well, thanks so much for joining us, and we look forward to the election results.
Thank you very much.
The Rhine-Neck Board of Education is currently facing a conflict between its president and the other 5 school board members. It is all about a $5.9 million school expansion plan and the bond that is needed to finance it. Under the expansion plan, 6 kindergarten classes would be added to Daniel Warren's school. The plan is opposed by school board president Robert Kelly. He was quoted in the Journal News saying, quote, "It is a cosmetic change at the expense of making substantial contributions to the classroom," end of quote. One of the other school board members responded, quote, "It enhances what we are going to be able to offer our kids, fulfills our facilities needs that we do have at the middle school, high school, and is done in a way that makes a lot of sense," end of quote. Under the proposed plan, kindergartners and first graders are to attend Warren Elementary School. The 2nd through 4th graders would go to F.E. Bellows School, and 5th through 12th graders would attend school at the middle and high school campus.
More expensive water could be coming, and we're not talking about the bottled kind. Westchester Joint Waterworks, which serves the village and town of Mamaroneck and Harrison, is awaiting an appellate court decision within the next couple of months to determine whether it must build a $37 million water filtration plant as mandated by New York State. if the earlier decision ordering the water company to build the plant is upheld, residents could see a hike in water bills up to 40%. Construction on the new plant probably would begin by January and be completed by the end of the year 2007. We'll keep you posted.
The Beeline bus strike continues in Westchester County. Both sides continue their talks that now include a federal mediator, but have not reached any solution to their conflicting positions yet. About 55,000 regular Beeline bus riders have been looking for other means of transportation to get to wherever they have to go in the county over the last months. But they're not the only ones who are affected by the strike. The bus drivers and workers who are covered by the Transport Workers Union are also feeling the pains of the strike. They have not received paychecks for a month and have to tighten their belts to make sure that they can pay all the bills that need to be taken care of. Police officers have also started to arrest striking Beeline workers who blocked buses from leaving the depot. The arrested bus drivers are charged with disorderly conduct, which is a violation. As the strike continues, Liberty Lines, the operator of the Beeline buses, is starting to hire new workers and trains them. These new bus drivers are trained at Playland.
Ambitious plans for Flint Park were unveiled last month to the village of Larchmont by park consultants, landscape architect John Imbiano from Imbiano and Quigley, and park planner Ron Tettleman of Eberlin and Eberlin. Village board and committee members were impressed with the plans to combine an environmental area with ball fields. The plans envision a number of mini environments in the back of the park, between the ball fields and a Long Island Sound inlet, similar to the Rye Marshlands with its meadow and diverse nature trails. Environmental themes carried through to the choice of materials, recycled, and the use of earth forms, dirt-mounded or shaped, to hide modern-day necessities like leaf collection depots, and even to obscure view of the ball fields. And drainage of those fields, an issue that hits close to home now with all of the rain and flooding we've experienced, and with the opening day Little League games canceled, clearly is a necessity. And cost, well, they still need to determine it, but with this vision, it appears to be higher than expected or hoped. But the village is working on getting the numbers down and raising funds by grants and private donation.
The unemployment rate in Westchester County continues to fall. A rate of 4% was recorded for Westchester County for February. This is a drop of 4.8% from 4.8% in February of 2004. The unemployment rate for Putnam County was recorded at 3.6%, a drop from 4.1% for February of the year before. And in Rockland County, the rate dropped from 4.5% in February of 2004 to 3.9% this February. Since February a year ago, some 12,000 jobs were added in the region.
The election of former Town of Mamaroneck Councilwoman Judy Myers to the county legislature created some holes in town administration. Last week, we told you that Deputy Supervisor Paul Winnick was appointed councilman to serve out the remainder of Myers' term, which goes to the end of the year. Supervisor Valerie O'Keefe has appointed Councilwoman Phyllis Whitner deputy supervisor, and local resident Fred Barron will take Winnick's former seat on the Town Zoning Board of Appeals. Congratulations to both.
Ronald Tocci, a former assemblyman, first for 18 years for the Democrats and then for the last 2 years as a Republican, may oppose State Senator Susie Oppenheimer in next year's election. Oppenheimer, a Democrat, former mayor of the village of Mamaroneck, has served 11 terms as state senator. Oppenheimer has been extremely successful in all of her re-election efforts. New York State Governor George Pataki appointed Tocci as deputy commissioner at the State Labor Department, who currently is not holding a political office last year. A final decision has not been made, but Tocci's possible run opposing Oppenheimer seems to have support in the Republican Party. Local student makes very good. Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News reporter Joseph Lopez has details.
What language do they speak in Taiwan? I'm not so sure, but hopefully Larchmont local Annalie Charles is. The student, graduate of Mamaroneck High School class of 2000, will head to Taiwan as part of the 2005-2006 Fulbright Fellowship. The fellowship grants students the unique opportunity to visit various countries and work with kids around the world. Charles, a senior at Pitzer College in California, will help teach English to children while in Taiwan. Her recent experiences with youngsters in Brazil, California, and New York City have inspired her interests. Through art and nature, Annalie hopes to touch these children and their understanding of the world. For Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News, I'm Joe Lopez.
The cover is off the book, so to speak. Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News reporter Kate Fahey has the inside edition.
After months of construction, the Mamaroneck High School Library finally opened on Tuesday, March 29th. Students, faculty, and administrators were all there at lunchtime to witness the grand opening, and all were thrilled and stunned by its beauty. One student exclaimed, "It looks like a college library." The new library is filled with lounge chairs, new desks, and 12 new computer stations, a big upgrade from the previous 5. There is also a separate classroom in the library with a state-of-the-art rear projector screen with access to the internet and cable and video conferencing. The library also holds 27,000 volumes. Another new opening was in the overpass. The hallway was widened and modified to also give students a place to sit and lounge. As for the rest of the construction, the remaining area of the overpass and administrative and guidance offices will open in September, along with the new cafe, which will replace the cafeteria and is going to be located where the old library now stands. For Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News, I'm Caitlin Fahey.
And it's back, the Real Estate Corner with Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News reporter Glenna Gray.
Hello, and welcome to the Real Estate Corner. Landlords and rental agents who disobey the Fair Housing Act, beware. You are more likely than ever to come under the scrutiny of the federal government. According to HUD, which stands for Housing and Urban Development, 2005 State of Fair Housing Report, HUD and its state and local fair housing assistance programs received 9,187 housing discrimination complaints. This represents a 13% increase over the previous fiscal year. This increase in complaint filings is the result of HUD's outreach to the public regarding housing discrimination. For more information, visit HUD's Enforcement Activity website at www.hud.gov/offices/FHEO/enforcement/HUDcharges.cfm. For Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News, I'm Glenna Gray.
Welcome back, Glenna. And that's it for this week's edition of Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News.
If you want to see this news show again, you can. It's on every weekday night at 7 p.m. We record one show each week, and it's replayed on this channel, LMC-TV, channel 75.
Or if you want to request to see the new show, you can. Call LMC-TV after 4 in the afternoon during the week at 698-6808 and ask to see the new show. They'll try to put it on at a time that's convenient for you to watch.
And this reminder, this news program is an all-volunteer effort, and we could use a few more volunteers, either behind the scenes or as a reporter. Or maybe you'd like to shoot video. Whatever the case, we need you.
In short, if you want to volunteer to help us put this program on, we've got something for you to do. Stop by some Thursday night in the LMC-TV studios and see how we do what we do.
The LMC-TV studios are in the Mamaroneck High School, the Palmer Avenue side, just up the stairs across from the landmark Walter's hot dog stand. And we get things started around 7 p.m., and we would love to see you.
Also, if you have any comments or suggestions or some video of an event that you'd like us to put on this news show, bring it to the studio or write to us at Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News, in care of LMC-TV, 1 Library Lane, Mamaroneck, New York, 10543.
Thanks again for watching Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News. I'm Sven Oehmer.
And I'm Maura Carlin. See you next week.